For privacy reasons, names and places have been changed. This story is inspired by true events.
On the afternoon of a crisp autumn day in 2008, 13-year-old Micah Feldman, a first-class scout, embarked on an orienteering exercise with his patrol in Ohio's Cuyahoga Valley National Park. He separated from the group near dusk and never rejoined. Despite an extensive multi-agency investigation involving hundreds of volunteers, K-9 units, and aerial reconnaissance, Micah vanished without a trace into the dense wilderness. For 11 agonizing years, his family lived with a relentless, gnawing uncertainty, the vast wilderness of the Cuyahoga Valley holding their son's last secret hostage. Then, in 2019, deep within a secluded Beaver marsh, a startling discovery was made. A brass compass, its bezel precisely scratched at 122 degrees, sealed inexplicably within an ancient dam. This is the complete investigation into what happened to Micah Feldman. Before we continue, let us know where you're watching from, and if you enjoy this content, consider liking and subscribing to our channel. Now let's continue. Cuyahoga Valley National Park, a sprawling expanse of forests, wetlands, and winding waterways in northeast Ohio, presented a picturesque, yet formidable landscape in the autumn of 2008. Within its vast boundaries, the serenity often belied the inherent challenges of its dense terrain, a fact Boy Scouts were trained to respect. On a late afternoon that year, 13-year-old Micah Feldman, a first-class scout known for his enthusiasm and burgeoning outdoor skills, was participating in an orienteering exercise, a fundamental skill for any scout. His patrol was navigating a section near the Beaver Marsh boardwalk, honing their compass and map-reading abilities as the day began its gentle descent toward evening. As dusk began to settle over the valley, casting long shadows across the dense tree line, Micah somehow became separated from his group. The precise moment and the reasons for this initial deviation would remain unclear for years, shrouded in the fading light and the confusion of the moment. Initially, the other scouts and Scoutmaster Yolanda Ruiz assumed Micah had simply fallen behind or taken a slightly different path, a common occurrence during such exercises. Their first calls for him were casual, expected responses to a temporary deviation. However, as the light faded further, and only the sounds of the approaching night answered their increasingly urgent shouts, a cold certainty began to settle among the patrol. The sun dipped below the horizon, plunging the valley into a profound darkness. The initial concern quickly escalated into genuine alarm. Scoutmaster Ruiz, her voice now strained with dread, organized the remaining scouts into a desperate, immediate search perimeter, their flashlights cutting feeble swaths through the encroaching gloom. Each minute that passed without a response from Micah deepened the fear. The realization that Micah had not simply rejoined the group, that he was truly alone and missing within the vast, darkening park, became stark and undeniable. Panic, swift and absolute, replaced the growing concern. The serene evening transformed into a desperate scramble, culminating in the first frantic calls for assistance, signaling the commencement of a search that would soon grip the nation. Micah Feldman, a Boy Scout on a routine exercise, had vanished. The frantic calls from Scoutmaster Yolanda Ruiz initiated an immediate and overwhelming response. Within hours of Micah Feldman's reported disappearance, Cuyahoga Valley National Park transformed from a tranquil wilderness into a hive of urgent activity. Search and rescue teams, park rangers, and local law enforcement converged on the Beaver Marsh boardwalk area, the last known location of the 13-year-old scout. K-9 units were deployed, their handlers guiding them through the dense undergrowth, while thermal imaging cameras swept the tree lines, attempting to pierce the cold autumn night. Volunteers, drawn by the grim news, arrived in increasing numbers, eager to lend their aid to the burgeoning search effort. The initial search parameters focused intensely on the immediate vicinity of the Beaver Marsh boardwalk and the network of trails Micah's patrol had been using. This was a challenging environment, characterized by thick woodlands, winding ravines, and the marshy, often impassable terrain around the wetlands. Every fallen log was examined, every thicket meticulously combed. Investigators quickly established a center, meticulously mapping out areas already searched and coordinating the hundreds of personnel now dedicated to finding Micah. Scoutmaster Ruiz, still reeling from the shock, provided detailed accounts of the evening, recounting Micah's last known position and the patrol's activities. Other scouts from Micah's group were interviewed, their youthful recollections piecing together a fragmented timeline, but none offered a definitive insight into Micah's separation or his subsequent direction of travel. Each interview brought more questions than answers. The terrain itself became an antagonist, its natural features obscuring any potential tracks or signs. Despite the massive mobilization and the relentless efforts of trained professionals, the vastness of the park swallowed the boy without a trace. There were no discarded belongings, no broken branches indicating a struggle, no footprints that could definitively be attributed to Micah. As the first day bled into the second, then the third, the initial hope began to erode, replaced by a gnawing fear. The absence of any tangible clue, any sign of the missing scout, deepened the desperation that settled over the search party and the grieving family. As weeks bled into months, the monumental search effort for Micah Feldman inevitably began to contract. The initial surge of volunteers dwindled, the specialized K-9 units were reassigned, and the vast resources dedicated to the active search could no longer be sustained. The park, once teeming with searchers, slowly returned to its natural, somber quiet. The decision to scale back was excruciating for all involved, particularly for Micah's family, who clung to every remote possibility, but without a single shred of new evidence. The active search phase reached its unavoidable conclusion. The case, however, was far from closed. Instead, it transitioned into the chilling category of a cold case, a file gathering dust in police archives, yet never truly forgotten by those whose lives it had irrevocably altered. Without a body or any trace of his passage, the theories surrounding Micah's disappearance proliferated, yet none could be substantiated. Was it a tragic accident, a fall, or exposure to the elements? Had he encountered a predatory animal, or perhaps a predatory human? The absence of evidence allowed every dark possibility to fester, leaving an open wound of uncertainty. Investigators revisited witness accounts, re-examined maps, and re-interviewed the patrol members, but the outcome was consistently the same: a void where answers should have been. Micah Feldman became a statistic, one of the countless missing persons whose stories remain incomplete. A decade passed. 11 years accumulated, each one stretching the chasm of uncertainty wider, eroding the initial fervent hope into a quiet, persistent ache. For the family, the passage of time brought no solace, only the deepening despair that settles when a loved one simply vanishes without a trace. His 13th birthday came and went, then his 14th, and every subsequent year served as a stark reminder of the boy who never came home. The community, once united in a desperate search, slowly learned to live with the enduring mystery, a haunting question mark etched into the serene landscape of Cuyahoga Valley. The file grew thicker with reports, but thinner with prospects, until it seemed Micah Feldman's fate was destined to remain forever unknown. 11 years had passed since Micah Feldman vanished into the vastness of Cuyahoga Valley National Park. The seasons had cycled through winter, spring, summer, and fall 11 times over, each bringing new growth and decay to the landscape, slowly reclaiming the faint traces of human activity. The park had returned to its rhythms, its natural processes indifferent to the human tragedy that once consumed its forests. The Beaver Marsh Boardwalk, once a focal point of a desperate search, had seen countless visitors come and go, unaware of the lingering mystery hidden beneath its placid surface. The case of the missing Boy Scout had settled into the quiet, unresolved despair of a cold file, a haunting memory for those who once searched. Then, in the late autumn of the 11th year, an unexpected discovery shattered the long silence. During a routine inspection of the park's waterways near the Beaver marsh, a park official noticed an anomaly within an old, well-established beaver dam, partially exposed by shifting water levels and the natural deterioration of the structure. A small, metallic object was firmly embedded in the dense matrix of mud and branches. With careful effort, the object was retrieved. It was a brass compass, clearly ancient and heavily weathered by years of submersion and exposure to the elements. Its surface was oxidized, its glass face cloudy, but its fundamental structure remained intact, a testament to its robust construction. The compass, a common tool for any scout, immediately drew attention. Its age and the unusual location of its discovery prompted park authorities to contact local investigators. Upon closer examination, a crucial detail emerged. Etched onto the compass's rotating bezel, a distinct scratch was visible, pointing precisely to the 122-degree mark. It was not a random mark. It appeared deliberate, or perhaps the result of a significant impact. This specific, indelible detail, found on an object so intrinsically linked to scouting, sparked an immediate and profound realization. Could this be Micah Feldman's compass? The possibility, however remote, ignited a flicker of hope that had been extinguished for over a decade. The cold case of the missing 13-year-old Boy Scout was abruptly reopened, and the 122-degree scratch became the first tangible clue, a silent directive pointing towards a long-lost truth. The discovery of the brass compass, embedded for over a decade within the fibrous structure of a beaver dam, injected a sudden, potent surge of renewed energy into the long-dormant investigation of Micah Feldman's disappearance. What had been a cold case, relegated to the dusty shelves of unsolved mysteries, was now thrust back into the forefront of active inquiry. The compass, a silent artifact of a boy lost to the wilderness, became the singular, most compelling piece of evidence in 11 years. Its very existence offered a tangible thread, a fragile link to a past that had stubbornly refused to yield its secrets. Investigators, many of whom had not been part of the original search in 2008, approached the compass with meticulous care and a fresh perspective. The immediate priority was a comprehensive forensic examination. The weathered brass was carefully cataloged, photographed, and transported to a specialized laboratory. Experts began by scrutinizing the distinctive scratch on its bezel, precisely aligned with the 122-degree mark. Was this an intentional setting, a final bearing Micah had attempted to follow, or merely a random gouge inflicted by the elements or a fall? Microscopic analysis sought to determine the depth, angle, and any foreign material embedded within the scratch itself. Beyond this prominent mark, the entire surface of the compass was examined for trace evidence, fibers, soil particles, biological residue, or even faint fingerprints that might have survived years of submersion. Every imperfection, every speck of rust, every anomaly held the potential to unlock a piece of the puzzle. To understand the unique environment from which the compass emerged, the investigative team enlisted the expertise of Braden Cho, a seasoned wildlife technician with extensive knowledge of aquatic ecosystems and animal behavior within the Cuyahoga Valley. Cho's task was not only to analyze the composition of the Beaver Dam itself, but also to interpret the surrounding aquatic environment. What were the typical water flow patterns in that section of the marsh? How might a small, metallic object become sealed within such a structure? Could the beaver activity itself offer clues about the compass's trajectory or its point of entry into the water system? His insights into the natural forces at play were critical in building a comprehensive picture. As forensic scientists painstakingly analyzed the compass, and Cho examined the natural history of its resting place, investigators began to hypothesize. If this was indeed Micah's compass, How did it come to be entombed within a beaver dam, a considerable distance from his last known location? Did he drop it? Was it swept downstream? And what, if anything, did the 122-degree scratch signify? Was it a direction he was attempting to follow, perhaps a desperate attempt to find his way back to his patrol, or even to a perceived point of safety? The scratch, once a mere anomaly, now represented a potential silent instruction, a final, cryptic message from a boy lost in the vastness of the park. The meticulous forensic examination of Ka Feldman's brass compass yielded its most profound revelation, not from the prominent 122-degree scratch itself, but from microscopic elements imperceptible to the naked eye. Under powerful magnification, investigators discovered minute wood chips, barely visible slivers of organic material, intricately embedded within the very groove of the distinctive bezel mark. These were not random flecks. Their placement suggested they had been forcefully pressed into the metal at the moment the scratch was formed. This detail transformed the compass from a mere artifact into a potential witness. Forensic botanists quickly extracted these tiny fragments. The subsequent DNA analysis confirmed their botanical origin: alder. This was a critical distinction. Alder trees, while common, have specific growth patterns and ecological niches within the Cuyahoga Valley. The identification narrowed the potential source considerably. With this precise botanical signature, the expertise of wildlife technician Braden Cho became indispensable. Cho, intimately familiar with the park's flora and the intricate network of its waterways, took the alder DNA profile and began a targeted ecological investigation. His knowledge of local beaver populations proved vital. Beavers predominantly use specific types of wood for their dams and lodges, and alder was a favored material in certain areas. Cho meticulously mapped the distribution of alder trees along the waterways upstream from where the compass was found. He then cross-referenced this with known beaver activity. His investigation led him to a single, specific upstream lodge, several hundred yards from the original discovery site, where alder was the predominant construction material. This pinpointed the most probable source of the wood chips embedded in the compass. The implications were immediate and profound. If the compass came into contact with this particular alder, it suggested Micah Feldman had been in this precise, upstream channel. With this narrowed focus, investigative teams, now armed with a precise target, shifted their search efforts to the identified upstream channel. Specialized sonar equipment and dragging tools were employed, systematically sweeping the murky depths of the waterway. The painstaking process involved methodically moving through the channel, feeling for obstructions beneath the water's surface. After days of relentless effort, the dragging operation yielded a significant anomaly: a large, submerged logjam, intricately woven and anchored to the riverbed. This was no natural accumulation of debris. It bore the hallmarks of deliberate beaver construction, but also suggested a more complex structure. Further investigation of the logjam revealed its hidden secret. Beneath the dense tangle of branches and mud, concealed by years of natural accumulation and beaver architecture, lay a narrow, almost imperceptible opening. It was not merely a crevice, but a distinct entrance to a subterranean passage, a sinkhole leading downwards into the earth. The discovery sent a ripple of astonishment through the team. This was a geological feature rarely encountered in such a location, and its concealment within the logjam was masterful. To explore this newly discovered passage, the team immediately recognized the need for specialized expertise. Caver Natalie Hruska, known for her experience in navigating complex and dangerous subterranean environments, was swiftly called to the scene. The sinkhole represented a dramatic shift in the investigation, suggesting that Micah Feldman's final journey may have led him not merely across the land, but beneath it. Natalie Hruska, a caver of extensive experience, approached the sinkhole's narrow entrance with professional resolve. The passage, barely wide enough for a human body, plunged into absolute darkness, its air thick with the scent of damp earth and decay. Equipped with specialized climbing gear, helmet-mounted lights, and communication lines, Hruska began her perilous descent into the unknown. Each movement was deliberate, calculated, navigating the constricted, water-slicked shaft. The rock walls pressed in, a testament to the unforgiving subterranean world, a stark contrast to the open forest above. Hours passed in suffocating silence, broken only by the scrape of her gear and methodical reports to the surface team. The deeper she descended, the more apparent it became. This was no mere crevice but a hidden chamber, a natural trough, concealed for over a decade. Deep within this forgotten space, Hruska's powerful beam cut through the gloom, illuminating the long-sought answers. The ultimate truth of Micah Feldman's fate, hidden for 11 years, was finally unveiled. The discovery, while tragic, brought profound and undeniable resolution to the haunting mystery. Investigators could now meticulously reconstruct Micah's final moments. Disoriented and likely injured in the fading light, he had stumbled or fallen into the concealed sinkhole. The 122-degree scratch on his brass compass, once a cryptic anomaly, now revealed its meaning. Not a bearing he was following, but the precise angle of impact, or perhaps the direction his hand was braced against rough alder wood as he fell, the metal gouging against the bark. The alder wood chips, embedded in the bezel, corroborated this, confirming his contact with the specific alder tree that had grown to conceal the sinkhole entrance within the Beaver logjam. The compass, a tool meant for guidance, had inadvertently recorded the final, desperate trajectory. For Micah's family, the news brought a complex surge of emotions. Initial shock gave way to a profound, if painful, sense of closure. The endless uncertainty, the gnawing questions of over a decade, were finally answered. Grief remained, tempered by the solace of knowing, of finally being able to mourn with a definitive truth. The community, which had carried the quiet despair of an unresolved disappearance, also found a measure of peace. The case of Micah Feldman became a testament to the enduring power of forensic science and the intricate, often overlooked, clues preserved by the natural world. A tiny scratch, microscopic wood chips, and the tireless dedication of investigators and specialists like Braden Cho and Natalie Hruska combined to unravel a mystery that had long seemed impenetrable. It underscored the truth that even in the vastness of the wilderness, and after significant time, the smallest detail can ultimately reveal profound secrets, ensuring no story, however cold, remains forever untold.